Welcome to the Write Your Next Chapter podcast. This is how to live inspired. Let's go, my friends. We're so excited you can join us again. I think back to when the idea of Write Your Next Chapter first entered my head. I wanted to bring color and vibrancy into other people's lives.
When we teamed up to create this podcast, we knew we could bring together heartfelt stories, motivational talks, and so much intention to inspire others joining us on this journey.
Yep, we just wanted to give you a small glimpse into living your best life, or just that nudge you needed to start thinking about your next chapter. Now, let's get on to today's episode.
Hi guys, it's Chelsea. I've got Vic here. Sorry for the long pause from the last time you heard from us.
We've been on a little hiatus.
Yep, enjoying quarantine or not enjoying quarantine. I guess it kind of depends on what your perspective is, but going through some
Totally. Now we were all just trying to navigate this different journey, and for us, the difficulties of trying to coordinate podcasts and everyone's schedule and figuring out, who's working, who's not working, who's having fun playing Animal Crossing in quarantine, because I know I was. And that's a shameless plug to Animal Crossing right now, but I was addicted.
Okay, I do have to ask, though, did you learn any new hobbies during quarantine? I know everyone's talking about the new things they've learned. What was your new hobby?
Yeah, I learned how to bring campers to my island on Animal Crossing. Like, that was probably the best hobby I've learned. I mean, I learned how to build cliffs, add waterfalls. It was an amazing hobby.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
And what about you?
So I can't really say it's a hobby because I'm not super good at it yet, but I started trying wood burning. There's an official name for it. I'm not really sure what it is at the moment. But yeah, trying to learn how to draw letters and shapes and decorative things to wooden objects. So
that totally beats my Animal Crossing.
No,
Totally.
Waterfalls, nothing fancy. You should see the work I did, and you might change your mind. But yeah, I took up something new.
That's exciting. Yeah. Well, on the real, we actually did install a home gym in our garage.
I'm very excited. I cannot wait to see before and after quarantine photos of you.
Yeah, I have to actually start using it. I've probably used it twice, but I will say my wife will be the first to tell you it almost ended in divorce a few times because putting together a home gym is not the easiest thing to do. So we had our moments where we were just like, okay, walk away from each other because we just can't do this right now.
I mean, especially it's even harder to have those moments when you're having quarantine because you're locked down and you can't go anywhere. So you're still kind of stuck with each other. But the good news is you're still together. And so this was probably a good relationship test, if nothing more.
Oh, it totally was. She's been using it quite a bit. She works from home, so obviously she has a little bit more flexibility to come downstairs and use it. I've been working through this whole pandemic, and my time has been a little bit more strained, and frankly I've just been emotionally and mentally and physically drained by the end of the day when I get home. So now I'm in a better place. Now I can start using the gym. I'm excited. But I did hear that you picked up another hobby, something with eggs.
Oh gosh.
What was it?
Everything with eggs. I did we had this genius idea at the beginning of quarantine to buy an ungodly amount of eggs. I don't even know how many was in this brick. I think it was like 8 dozen, thinking we would be set for some time. And then I realized we don't actually eat that many eggs and started getting creative. And every day was a new egg recipe. So I took on, I don't even know what the official name is, like drying out salt cured egg yolks. which took me almost.
That's some Master Chef stuff right there.
I mean, I watched a lot of MasterChef in quarantine, so that might be where the inspiration came from, or the crazy idea, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, it took almost 3 weeks of curing them and then putting them in cheesecloth and letting them dry. And the end of the process is it's kind of like a salty Parmesan when you grate it. And we've been putting it on salads, steaks, but it's kind of a really fun cheese-free option as a topping on food now. So it came out yummy, but it was a very long process.
That's awesome. No, I'm intimidated by Master Chef Junior, and now I'm intimidated by co-host Chelsea.
Strangely enough, one of my old employees was on Master Chef Junior when he was 13. So
that's awesome. Well, now we got to hunt them down and get them onto a podcast, right?
Right. But anyway, so I know we're talking about quarantine a lot. And we were kind of talking about like you and I had been sidebarring about what was important in quarantine and how you really kind of noticed like who was important to you, what is important to you, and what things you can kind of let go of. And I know for everyone who's listening, our next guest kind of fits right into that niche, talking about her journey. So I know it's someone that you have previously known. So tell us about Rocio.
Yeah, definitely. So she lives out in Colorado, a state I've never been to, and I totally want to go visit for the beautiful scenery that I always see photos of. So we met through a mutual friend, and I said, "Hey, let's get you onto a podcast and share really what your next chapter is," because she's using this quarantine time to really transform her mindset and figure out what she wants to do with this next chapter, this next milestone coming up in her life. And I was excited when she said, "Yeah, let's do this," right? So we're gonna get her on the phone. She's gonna dial in remotely so that we can socially distance a few states away, and we're gonna have a good conversation with her. So let's dial in, let's get her on the phone, and let's have a good conversation here.
All right, sounds good.
Chelsea's on.
Hi, Chelsea.
Nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Likewise.
I can't.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I've never done something like this, so we'll see how it turns out.
Neither have we. Okay. So you're okay. we're all new to the podcast game. You're good. You're good. I was telling Chelsea a little bit about you, and she's really excited to meet you. So we're just gonna jump in and we're just gonna talk. First of all,
yes,
you're calling from Colorado, so thank you, because I know it's an hour ahead. We're all in quarantine, so I'm curious, where are you recording from?
House. So I actually just came into my bedroom because my cat might show up, and then it will be part of the podcast as well. So anyway, yeah, I'm in Colorado Springs, and you know, things have been opening up here since April 27th. That's when the stay-at-home order kind of got the restrictions were lifted a little bit. So I think starting Monday, everything is opening up here.
Yeah, we're feeling that here in California. So we're in Southern California, Chelsea and I. I'm recording from my garage so that the dogs don't bark.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Reality of podcasting during quarantine. What about you, Chelsea?
I'm recording from my bedroom. It's the only room with carpet so that I don't echo.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. You can make a podcast states away.
Right.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So just to give people a little bit of background, I met Rocio through a mutual friend. I feel like it was like forever ago, but it probably wasn't that long ago, right? Like a year ago?
I think it was almost a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, right? So we met through a mutual friend, and immediately I was like, me and this chick have a lot in common. Personal development, like energy is just not even a 10. It's probably like a 20 when you meet her in person. And And I know the more we talk to you, the more we're going to get to see that personality come out on a podcast. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, that's pretty much the story there. Personal development, I think, is definitely what got you and I talking a lot.
Yes.
And we're going to touch on that and see, really what personal development you've been doing over quarantine and what your next chapter looks like. Because I know that that's all going to be good. But before we get into all that background and all that, I was talking to Chelsea as we were preparing for this podcast, and I was like, Chelsea, I'm gonna have to ask Rocio to tell this story. And I know what story you know exactly what story I'm gonna talk about.
But now I'm trying to know,
because I think we have to start the podcast off with this story. So the very first story I hear as we're sitting down having drinks in a restaurant is about her and her friend going whale watching.
Oh man.
So I think before we even get into like all the other stuff that you have going on in your life, like we have to hear this whale watching story again, or at least Chelsea has to hear it once in her lifetime. But I'm pretty sure all the listeners want to hear it too.
Okay.
So what exactly happened? Like, take us back to the day that you guys got on the boat to go whale watching.
So I am not the most succinct person, so I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible, but I think that there's so many details that are so key and important, for the storyline that I'm gonna tell you about them. So now let's see. Okay, so I love the ocean. Okay, I love the motion of the water, and like when you're on a boat, it's just so soothing and relaxing for me. And then I'm fascinated by marine life and whales and dolphins and everything that's in water. So let's see. Okay, so whale watching, it is one of my ultimate favorite things to do, right? And I've been doing whale watching. Let's see, I lived in California for about 15 years. So I've done it like some 20 times over the years. And always either off the coast of Dana Point or Newport Beach. And this one time, okay, so it was, when was it? It was February of 2019. And February 15th is my birthday. So my best friend and my boss at the time, they decided to get me a trip to California because I was already living in Colorado. It's really cold in February. So I'm like, if I want something for my birthday, it will be a trip to California just because I love it so much. And so I went to California. I flew in there on February 14th, and then 15th, it was my birthday. I turned 30 years old that year. And then the 16th, my best friend, Kristen, she booked a trip, whale watching trip for the two of us. And my sweet friend, she gets motion sickness. So, but we've been friends for about 5-6 years now, and she got it down to a T. Like she doesn't have a heavy breakfast. She takes medicine a couple hours before we go, and then so she's totally fine throughout the trip. And so she came with me. We went to do that, and it was super, super good. And I will have to actually show you pictures for you to understand it better, but it's okay. I'm gonna do my best explaining this.
We would love to see pictures. Better yet, we'll post the pictures on the website afterwards too.
I do,
so that people can really see all of it. Right?
I do have pictures and videos. It was insane. So okay, so then okay, so we go to Newport Beach. Now the week prior, so this was February 16th. It was a Saturday, and then that whole week prior to this weekend, it rained in California, so the tide was really high. That day it was super windy. Anyway, but we went on, and we were gonna have a good time, and we did, for sure. So anyway, so we go, out into the ocean. It takes about an hour to go really out there to see if we can see some whales. We obviously saw some dolphins, and that was fun. And then we're on our way back, and now we're going, I don't know if I want to say like we're going against the current, but it got like the boat ride. It was a catamaran. I think there were like 50 people maybe in the catamaran. And Kristen and I, we were in the very, very front because those are the best seats, you know, in the place. So we're not really sitting down, we're standing there. And then, so on our way back, we're going against the current, I guess. And then, so the catamaran is like breaking over the waves. And every time it went over a wave, and then it broke over the wave, right? So we caught some little airtime, and it was almost like being on a roller coaster. It was really fun. And we're, we're there having fun. There's like a couple next to us, and they were super fun as well with a friend. So we're all joking and whatever. And then in one of those drops, between the drop, the I caught some airtime. So between that, the wind, I had a backpack on, so my backpack became some sort of like um parachute, if you will. And then between all these, components, the wind totally threw me over the rail, and
Oh.
I fall in the water. Now, something important that I forgot to tell you is that I don't know how to swim, and that's always, it's so lame, but it's always the same joke every time the boat goes out into the ocean. I tell Kristen, I said, "Hey, hold on tight, because if you fall overboard, I am not saving you." Like, because I don't know how to swim. So okay, so I fall under, I go, into the water, and okay, this actually happened. I just couldn't believe it, but I'm like, okay, it's fine. Just remain calm. You just need to get up on the boat again, right? Like, and this happened over like 2 seconds. There was no time to do anything. And then right as I, get my head out of the water and I'm thinking this, um, the current sucks me right underneath the boat, or the catamaran, right? It's pretty big, catamaran. So, yeah, so I get, I get sucked under it, and I was there for about 15 seconds or so. Um,
So what was going through your mind? Like literally, you're under the boat,
oh
right?
yeah.
Like you were under
So
the
I
boat.
am under it. And then if you've never been underneath a boat or a catamaran, like, it's so
I don't think
slippery.
any of us have ever been under a boat in the middle
I
of the
don't know.
ocean.
It's
I think you're the only
crazy.
one.
Well, the captain told me that in 15 years of doing that, he never like had a case like that. Like, never had an accident. Like, no one is wearing a life vest because I don't know. And again, I've done it like
Because it
20
doesn't
times.
happen,
It
right?
doesn't happen. So it would, I mean, I would be the one, right? So anyway, I get sucked, like the current sucks me right underneath the catamaran. And then the thing was, like, I was facing the catamaran, right? Like, so I get like hit up against it, and I could see it above me. I have my eyes open. And then if you touch so the bottom of it, it's so slippery. It's like you're touching something like super soapy. There's no traction whatsoever. And so I don't know if someone has seen the movie Finding Nemo, but if you remember that scene when Nemo is trying to go from like one fish tank to another, and he's trying to go through the propellers, um, and he's trying to put a little pebble and stop the propellers from going around. So anyway, that's the image that totally popped to my mind, and I'm like, oh my god, the propellers are gonna get me, and I'm gonna die. And I couldn't get a grip, right? So I'm like, what I need to do is to turn myself upside down, so then I can, because I have my snow boots on, and those have pretty good traction. So I thought, if I put my feet up against the catamaran, then I can push out of here, right? So again, I know that I have no skill whatsoever when it comes to swimming. I barely survive in a 5 feet pool. So in the ocean, I mean, the chances were, yeah, slim. So anyway, then okay, so I turned myself upside down, and I was able to push off the catamaran. The problem was that right as I went out from underneath it, a second current sucked me right back into underneath it a second time. And that's when I thought, I'm like, okay, this is it, like, this is how I'm gonna die. Um, so I don't know, I thought of my family, I thought of my life, I thought that I lived a pretty good life up until that point. Um, And then I remember thinking about a test that I had that same week before I travel. I had a pretty big test and I was so stressed out about it. And I remember being underneath the boat and thinking, oh my God, it was so stupid to think about that. Like it doesn't even matter, you know? And then I remember being sad because I thought if something happens to me, then my best friend will have to, reach out to my family. My family is all back in Argentina. So, it will be it would take some time to bring me back there and everything. So anyway, I was thinking of all of that, but then I'm a woman of faith, obviously. And then I thought, you know what? I call on God and I said, hey, I know that I'm not alone. I know that you're with me. Um, I'm not just going to sit here. I'm going to do it one more time, but please help me. And yeah, so I tried a second time to try to get from underneath the catamaran. And what had happened, at that point I had to close my eyes to really focus on what I was doing because I was running out of breath and just too much adrenaline was going on. And yeah, so I closed my eyes and then the next thing I know is that I don't know, I'm still floating in water, but I look up and then I see the sky and I can breathe. And I'm like, am I in heaven? And then I thought if I was in heaven, I wouldn't be still in the water. But anyway, and then I look to the side and I see the catamaran like 100 feet away from me. But yeah, so what had happened was like when the captain didn't see me floating around, he killed the engine and then he put the catamaran in reverse. So then that's when I got spit to the side.
I think
Wow.
I think my dad was like, let me just pick it off the floor.
Like, wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you had to really be
Like, where do we go
I know,
from there?
right? It's
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
Okay, so this is where you go. You just go up. You realize how fragile life is, and then everything that you worried about or that you like stressed for no reason, it vanishes. Like nothing matters.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think so many people are figuring that out right now during quarantine too. Like
Yes.
they're realizing like what's important in life,
Mhm.
right? Like I think that's such a valuable lesson to take. But I mean that's the second time I've heard this story, and still like I'm like I can taste the salt water. Like, it's
I
crazy,
am
right?
not the best at
Did you?
storytelling because I go
So
around
did you get free tickets for life?
not for life, but we got like 20 free tickets. Seriously.
Okay. So that's my next question is have you been out whale watching since then?
No, I have not. But I definitely want to go back. Now, this is something interesting that happened to me was like so that was happened in February and then sometime in I think it was July of last year. Um I went to Knott's Berry Farm and um I was in a roller coaster. It was the first ride of the day. I was sitting there, I was holding on tight to the metal, handles on my seat and it was in it and I love roller coasters, okay? I'm a total adrenaline junkie. And then it was in one of those upside down loops that the very same fear sunk in, inside me. And it totally took me back to the moment when I was like literally upside down, like my feet up in the air, and I am upside down, holding onto the rail. I'm thinking someone is gonna see me and they're gonna grab my legs and bring me back to the boat, right? Well, it only took like 2 seconds, but no one did, and and then I just went, into the water. But yeah, so and then after that ride, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty done. I'm not doing this again because, again, you like that reality of life is so fragile, and then nothing ever goes wrong, but there is that. I mean, obviously I'm the exception to the rule, so I'm like, I don't know, I just didn't want to risk it anymore. So yeah.
That's crazy. Absolute crazy.
It is.
But I love the story. I mean, mind you, we were talking about the story and having drinks at the same time. So I think people were giving us dirty looks inside
Yes.
the restaurant, weren't they? They were like, can these people
Yes,
shut up just for a
right.
minute?
Where you like my best friend, she tells the story way, way, way better than I do, honestly. But yeah, it's pretty, and she has her own side of the story as well. It would be cool to do a little conversation with her, just because she can tell
Yeah.
you what her reality or her version was being on the boat, and it's really cool. I have some videos, so I'm gonna send them to you, and I have
because
Go ahead.
2 seconds probably felt like a lifetime for her. Like,
Oh,
where is she? Oh my
absolutely,
God.
absolutely.
I'm going to see a
Well,
dead body float up like in 2 seconds,
so
right?
when I was able to breathe oxygen again, and then I realized, okay, I'm just floating here. And normally that is my issue, is that I get tired of like just doing the doggy paddle, and then I cannot breathe very well. And so when I was floating, I thought all I have to do right now is to remain calm and focus on my breathing. If I was able to get from underneath the catamaran, which was the hardest part, and the propellers didn't get me, um, then God is going to get me out of this one. I mean, I definitely believe that. I'm like, I'm just going to float all the way back to shore. I don't know. But so overall, I think I was underneath the catamaran about 15 seconds or so, and then I was in the water for some good 5 minutes, because the guys, the two crew guys, so there's the captain and then two guys that were part of the crew, they did not know what to do. They were terrified, and they threw the life ring at me like 3 times, and they couldn't get it because it was so windy and the tide was so high that it, like, the water was terrible. And then thank God there was a retired cop, I think, or firefighter or something like that, and he knew exactly what to do. It was, yeah, so um yeah, but Kristen will tell you a very different version. She's like, yeah, when I saw her pop out of from underneath, from the water, like, she wasn't bleeding, she wasn't missing any limbs or anything like that. So, and I'm like, oh God, I didn't even think about that. And then people ask me, were you thinking like what was underneath you? And I never once thought what's underneath me, because if I did, I think I would have panicked and it would have been way worse.
I am still having trouble wrapping my head around this because I was going along for the ride with your story. I'm like, that's so
Yeah.
great. She loves whales, she loves the water. And then when you drop the bomb that you can't swim, I'm like, oh no.
Oh,
And I'm like speechless that you had the poise and the wherewithal to like save yourself, essentially. I just think I would have been a ball of nerves and gotten stuck, or I might have swum to the bottom of the ocean. I don't know. I'm literally, and everyone who knows me knows I love to talk, but I think I'm just literally lost for words.
It's a
oh
crazy
my
story.
God. Oh no, I just think that when you're in that, like, your survival instinct kicks in really, really well. Um and yeah, I mean, I understand that a lot of people wouldn't know what to do. I don't think I knew what to do. I think I was just lucky. My doctor couldn't believe that I left without a single scratch. I had some bruises from hitting, my body up against the rail and then the boat, but like, besides that, nothing else. So I was definitely very lucky. But you don't really have much time to think. And then a lot of people tell me like, oh, you should have gone down, like, deeper into the water, so then you can break free from the tide or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't think about that. I wasn't thinking.
No, I love the story. And the more I was thinking about, okay, we're going to record this podcast, we get to chat with Rocio. And I'm just like thinking, okay, this is everything we're going through right now through a pandemic. And what are people doing and what does that look like? And, I looked back on the last 12 weeks for me, and it was filled with, anxiety, nervousness, panic, uncertainty. I had family members that got sick. I actually lost a family member during this time. And so,
Wow, I'm so
um,
sorry.
yeah. And so I think it was important that I was like, let's share this story, because I knew for you, like, you're on a different path in your life right now. And I can't wait to talk about that. But for so many people, like, if they didn't utilize this time, um,
Yeah,
it's still not too late to utilize this time. I think that's so
absolutely.
important to know, is we're all figuring out what's important and what's not important. And for
Yes.
me, like, I would get to work every single day at like 7 a.m. And that was just my routine. And during this whole process, I had to tell my team, like, for my self-care, like, I'm going to show up at 9 or 10 a.m. just so I can get an extra hour of sleep or two, because my body is tired. And so I think during this whole time, we figured out what was important and what are some things that weren't important. And so I thought that story was going to totally just open that up and have this amazing discussion about, what the journey you're on is like. So to kind of give people a little bit of backstory, I mean, you already mentioned it. You were born in Argentina. How old were you
Mhm.
when you moved to the U.S.?
I was 15 years old.
15. Big change.
Hmm. Yes.
Teenager, big change.
Yes.
Um, so what brought you to the United States?
Well, I would have to say opportunity. Truly, my
Yeah.
family, my parents were okay surviving in Argentina, but there wasn't really much future for my brothers and I. I have two brothers, and yeah, so we were looking for a better life, better opportunities.
Yeah.
Um,
Did that mean like school or like what did that look like?
yeah, just in general. I mean, Argentina is, and I don't want to go too much into that because I know it's. I mean, I haven't been there in like almost 17 years,
Yeah,
so I can't
totally.
speak for that reality anymore. But at the time, in the early 2000s, the economic system was really unstable, so we didn't know what was going to happen with the country. So I guess we were looking for better job opportunities, and also, I mean, my family, we really value education, so we definitely wanted to provide for that as well. And obviously everything kind of sort of starts with money, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You have to have the right resources, and we were at a point where, I mean, we were really in huge survival mode, like, I mean, we experienced some severe and serious poverty. So I guess that we were just looking for the bare minimum. We were not thinking, um, that we were going to be millionaires. We never thought of that. We were just looking for just to survive, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So did you start college while you were out here or
Yeah. So okay. So my story, it's a little, it's not all over the place, but it kind of is.
you can tell it?
Um, okay. So my family, after a couple of years, my family decided to go back to Argentina because adapting to a new culture, it was really hard for them. And I also had grandparents in Argentina that were very ill, and they needed, a lot of attention, and we just couldn't produce enough money to provide for, nurses and things like that. So anyway, my family went back to Argentina, and I was 17 years old, and I decided to that I didn't want to go back to Argentina. So I said, no, I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay here in the States, in California. And I actually dropped out of high school in my sophomore year to get a job, and I did. Eventually, I got my, I think it's a GRE or some, or GED. I think it's a GED certification. And then, yeah, and then I went to college. I went to Saddleback College, and I got my associate's degree there. And then I transferred to Cal State Fullerton, and I was working on my degree in psychology.
Awesome. What inspired you to kind of pursue psychology?
So I've always wanted to be a teacher by, that's my vocation, to teach, to help people. I love working with children. At the moment, at the time, I was working with kids with special needs, mostly like autism and then ADHD. And I wanted to be a school teacher, but then, with all due respect, but just school teachers don't get paid well. And so I'm like, I'm not going to get the results that I want being a school teacher. So then I thought, okay, what's the next layer? How can I make more money still teaching and creating an impact? And so I thought, okay, therapy will be really good. And I was going for occupational therapy. And then I was getting my bachelor's in psychology, and I started to understand where the field was going, and neuropsychology is huge, and that's really where the field of psychology and the different therapies are really going towards, neurology. And so so I decided to get, well, I was on my path to get my PhD in neuropsychology.
That is so impressive. I think that's really neat, and I love what you said about teachers, because I think the one thing that I've heard echoed through so many parents currently in the state that we're in is that they're so much more appreciative of teachers now that they're having to teach their kids, and so hopefully maybe we'll reevaluate how much we pay teachers in the future as people become
Absolutely.
that they are.
Absolutely. I think, because you guys mentioned the pandemic and how things are changing a lot, I think that, yeah, we definitely have to reassess our values, our priorities. And education, I mean, it's the basic, right? It's the foundation. We start when we're very, very little, and teachers play a critical role in the development of a child, and we have to really value them.
So true, so true. So when you think about like your next chapter, what does that look like? Because you were saying you were going down the path of getting your PhD. What crossed that path? Like what changed? What happened? What is this next chapter going to look like?
Okay, so again, I'm a little unorthodox, so I don't want to trash what other people are doing by any means. This is just my own personal path, and what got in the way was that so working being on by myself here in the States. Um, it's not easy, especially living in California and Orange County. It was I had like 5 different jobs trying to survive, putting myself through school, getting student loans, and I was exhausted all the time. And it feels like there's so many loops and there's so much red tape, for so many things, that I recognized that I couldn't continue working at the capacity that I was working, um, because I was exhausting myself, and then I felt like I was not making enough progress, in the academic world, um, for it to be significant in my own personal timeline, right? So, for example, I haven't seen my family in 4 years because I've always put, working and putting myself through school first. I think it's important to mention that I also help my family financially. Um, and there's a significant, responsibility there as well. So it's not like I can just, pick up and go or change, um jobs or lives just like that, right?
Yes, you
So
wanted that time freedom, right?
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that nine
And
to
I
five
wanted,
job doesn't give you that time to freedom. And we totally know.
well, yeah, and only if I had just that, right? Like I've always had at least two jobs trying to, support myself, support my family, and also put myself through school. And all I ever did was dig a deeper hole, like financially, at least with debt for myself. And I'm like, this, it doesn't make any sense. And then I realized that I was making more money being a business owner or an entrepreneur without the degree than I would ever make with the degree. And then even with the PhD, I was going to create such a huge debt with student loans that it was going to take me decades to pay it back. And I'm like, there has to be a better way. Like I knew that other people were doing other things, and I'm like, it cannot just be me. So yeah, so that's why I decided to just not continue pursuing my degree, at least for now. Who knows, maybe in like 5 years, I'm like super financially stable, and then I decide to go back just for fun. But right now that is not my priority.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I mean, I know someone who has a PhD and had the hardest time because they couldn't find a job. Either they were
Mm-hmm.
overqualified,
Yeah,
or it put them in such a small box. And so,
exactly.
by no means, once again, are we saying that don't go out and get a degree if that's the path you're taking, by all means. And so, I think it's awesome that you're taking a different look at life right now, and you're taking a different path. Have you thought about what this entrepreneur side of you is going to look like? Like, what do you want to pursue? Like, what's fueling that passion right now?
Okay, so well, I got connected with like some really incredible individuals, and a couple became my mentors, and they're showing me, like how to build businesses, how to build life around that, right? Around the goals that I have. um First of all, I mean, they have the results that I want to achieve in my life. So they're basically showing me how to get the same results that they did, and I think that is the biggest thing, for me right now. Like that is my biggest reassurance, if anything. Knowing that I have guidance. Um, and yeah, I mean, besides the results, like you don't get results right away, but I'm starting to get results now. And um, yeah, and I think like for the first time in my life, I have to say, I feel pretty stable and calm. And even though in the midst of the pandemic and everything that is going on, but that is separate. I just feel like finally I'm putting my time and my effort into something that it will actually give me a future, and then I actually have something to show for it, not just debt.
Yeah, such a good feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, I just came back from a personal development 3-day seminar back in late February. And, I had so many people that were like, why are you spending all this money on going to a conference? And really, it's about putting yourself first
Yep.
and fueling whatever passion or desire you have. And for me, like, I mean, you know who Brendan Bouchard is, but he's
Hmm.
been on my top list of personal development influencers. And of course, I was fangirling. Like, let's just be real, right? Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm in the same room finally. But
I know, right? It's
yeah,
pretty surreal.
but at the end of the day, I came back so much more energized and passionate that I actually finished my life coach certification at the end of February
Nice.
too. So I totally get what you're saying. Have you had a mentor before this, or is this the first time you had a chance to work with someone that really mentored you?
So, I mean, I had someone guiding me through life since I was a teenager. She was actually my therapist, and I've known her for years, and she was just so key in my development when I was a teenager, and a young adult. But no, nothing to the um, intensity or the depth, that these people are guiding me and teaching me. So, but I think I totally get what you're saying, and I think that something that people don't realize is that they think, oh, it's so expensive to go, to buy a book or to invest in a learning program or something like that. And it actually is not. If you think about it, how much money we spend on school alone just to get a certification or a paper that says, oh, you completed 4 years or 7 or 8 or 9, whatever, however long it took you. But
And half the
people
time, we
don't.
don't even like that content at school, right? Half
Exactly.
the
Or
time, we're
you
just
cannot even apply it.
yeah. Half the time, we're
It's all
just sitting through it to
theory.
get a degree.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like you need to invest in yourself. Like, I mean, obviously, doctors, they have to go to school, but like we live in the era of information. Like we have so much information available that we don't have to go and spend so much money on just trivial things that are free online. Um, but I think investing on a coach or a mentor, even just any kind of like learning program, I think that's key, honestly.
I love what you said about, doing things that still fit your needs. And um, you were so kind in the way that you worded it about not disrespecting anyone else's journey that chooses to do school or doesn't. But I think, your message about doing things that fill your cup and saying no to things that no longer suit you is so prevalent given everything that's going on in the world right now. uh,
Absolutely.
we really like take a hard look at what really does bring us joy and what doesn't suit our purposes because we've had nothing but time with this pandemic to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really brave because the path that you're on is not always the easy path and it could be very scary. But I think that the level of happiness that you have when you speak about your own business and about taking away things that don't suit you, I can like hear it over the phone that it brings you joy. And
Cool.
I think you will be so much more satisfied with that path because it's something that you really love. I can tell that you really believe in it.
Hmm.
That's such a great thing to consider and like for people to take away right now.
Absolutely. Well, I think I've spent 10 years in a university or some sort of like, um, higher education institution. And in the past year, I've been happier than in the previous 10 years. Um, and I think something that I would like to challenge everyone to do is to think, okay, why do I do what I do? Sometimes I feel like, and I know this from my very own experience because we go to school just because everybody tells you, go to school, learn a skill, get a job. But that's old school thinking, truly. The world is changing. rapidly. The way the education system was created, it was back in the industrial age. Now we live in the information age. And I really, I mean, I'm not trashing whatever path anyone decides to go, down. By all means, go ahead and do it well. But ask yourself, like, am I doing this because I want to do this, or is it because someone else is telling me, or because a million of other people did it? That was me. I didn't know where to go, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go get student loans because there's a million other people that have done it, and I didn't know that I had other options, obviously. But as I started looking, I found them. But yeah, so just don't just go blindly, following everyone. Educate yourself for sure, because we have so much information available that is the key right there, to educate yourself.
Yeah, that's some valuable advice, because when we think about just the environment that we live in today, businesses, if they want to survive this economic hardship that's going to continue to happen and get worse, they're going to have to modify their business operations to be able to
Yeah,
survive what's coming, right? And so
absolutely.
for you to say, like, we have to change, we have to modify who we are and adapt, and not strictly adhere to old school thinking, if you want to call it that, or
Mhm.
whatever regimen was presented before us. And for some people, that's, hey, mom and dad want me to go to college, I have to do this, this, and this to be able to get where someone else wants me to get. Or um, I was brought up a certain way, so you have to go to school, get a degree, get a certain job to be classified as successful. And frankly, like what you're saying is, if we don't adapt, um,
Mhm.
frankly, it's going to be the end of us, right? We're not going to be happy in the long run. Majority of us won't.
Absolutely.
Some people may, right? Some people, they need that. It was great because you had sent me a book, Wired That Way, and
Yes.
so for some people, you need that structure, and that works for you. And for other people, I'm one of those people. I like a little structure, but I also like to kind of live on the edge a little bit, and
Yeah.
and try different things and figure out what brings me passion. And so it's just such valuable advice there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
So what books are you reading right now? Just curious.
You know what? I think it's called Over the Top by Zig Ziglar.
One of the best.
It's what Yeah, seriously, it's so fantastic. I'm so obsessed with that, and obsessed. I don't like using that word because it's not accurate, but it's a really really good book, and I think I think that's the transformation that I'm going through right now. It's moving from survival to stability, and I think I already have stability. Now I want to move towards success, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm in a place where I can actually breathe, and be like, okay, everyone is well. Believe it or not, in the middle of the pandemic, it sounds so contradictory, but it's like, okay, I'm good. Like, I have my health. My family is doing well. They have their health, and my family is more united than we have ever been. And I just so now I'm like, okay, we're fine. Now let's move on to the next level. And I don't even know. I mean, I know what I want that level to look like. But I don't know how to get there necessarily. I know I will get there and I have people helping me. It's just this is completely new to me and my family truly as well, because I count my family as a huge part of myself. So
I think it's great that you're counting your blessings during all of this. It's so easy to think about the things that we're not getting or we're not able to do. My fiance and I were just talking about this over dinner last night, that, there's so much going on. I'm just so grateful to have a job, and I'm so grateful that we have food on our table every day. And we really should think of the things that lifted us up during this, not the things that tear us down. I mean, even we were discussing Saturday was supposed to be our wedding date, and we had to postpone it because of all the pandemic stuff.
mm,
We're not even looking at it negatively, because at the end of the day, we still have each other, and we have so much to be grateful for, considering what other people are going through right now. So I love that
right.
you really didn't focus on any of the negative on that, and just focused on the things you were grateful for, like your family and all of that. I think it's such a good outlook, and it's kind of refreshing, because our area, a lot of people are very negative about this. So it just feels,
Yeah.
you really haven't mentioned one negative thing about all of the stuff that you're going through. This, it's been so positive. I just love that mindset.
Good. Thank you. I have to say, a lot of people get annoyed at me because they're like, "You're just too positive, and that's annoying.
No,
Can you
it's
be
refreshing.
realistic?"
No, it really is. It's refreshing.
Who are these people? We'll hunt them down.
We'll get them.
I know. I'll
Well,
send you a list
I
with
think
their
the
names.
correct terms is we'll cut a person for you.
There you go.
Okay.
Just tell us who it is, right?
Thank you, Vic. I like to know that you got my back.
We got
Not
your
that
back.
I need that, but still, though.
Now, your type of energy is what we need everywhere.
100%.
Every time I talk to you, mind you, it's on clips via Instagram. That's our new thing is these voice clips. And I told her, I was like, we're just going to cut and paste these into a podcast.
There you go.
It would just be fun. But your energy is really what lights up the room. And I can't wait for people to experience Rocio and get to really see what your journey is going to be like. But you know, this energy is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. That really warms my heart. That's awesome. Okay, that gives me reassurance that that I'm not being annoying, that it's good.
But we need more crazy boat stories because I know there's more out there. We barely touched the iceberg on that one.
Oh.
There's more.
Yes, but you mean just coming from me? I mean, there's quite some stories. I mean,
from you, don't jump off any boats. I don't want you.
Okay, no. It would be cool to all of us to just go and experience the first boat ride again.
I would love
after
to.
that.
I've actually never done it before, so going.
Oh, you have to do it.
Much that would be an absolute privilege.
Yes.
I'm up for it.
Yes.
I mean, as soon as the world opens up and we can get on a boat and go whale watching,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
It would be so cool. Absolutely, yeah. I will have to get myself to California first, but yes.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be hard to convince you to do that. I have a feeling.
Yeah. No, I was actually going to go. But then the pandemic happened, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And now it's June, and I still haven't been able to go. But as soon as everything opens up, I'm gonna get myself there.
But can we get you to wear a life vest?
Sure. I mean, yeah. I think I have to say. So we booked a trip, but we never went to it. But we booked a trip, and now they have this new waiver that you have to sign and disclaimer that if something happens to you, you cannot sue them. And I think it's funny. It definitely happened after my accident, for sure.
Oh my goodness.
It's amazing. Well, we got a few minutes left. And so I was just curious, like, what advice you have for people listening that maybe are afraid to start a new journey in their life or start that next chapter or take the leap of faith into a new job, a new project. Like, what advice would you give someone?
Well, it sounds super simplistic, but honestly, just go for it. I mean, sometimes I wonder, I wish I would have started sooner. You know, what it's meant for you is going to find you one way or another. And I think mindset is key. You have to be positive, you have to be hopeful, you have to believe that things could be better and that you have the power to make them so. And invest in yourself, educate. I know it's a lot of pieces to one advice, but it's like you are important. And if you have a vision to grow and then also to create an impact, it's worth investing in that and then going for that. So whatever it takes, for as long as it takes, just go and do it.
Yeah, we all want to leave a legacy, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we cannot thank you enough for taking some time out to chat with us. I seriously feel like we can chat for hours.
This was
truly, yes.
I don't know.
Thank you guys. This is fun.
I don't know if like they would allow me to put a 4-hour podcast up, but we can try next time. But we definitely have to meet up with you again, talk about personal development, because I know that's a huge passion of yours. Dive into more books that you're reading. I'm getting into Ryan Holiday. Really, I've watched him on YouTube videos, but I've never read any of his books. So that's kind of on my to-do list right now, to kind of get a better insight into his world. So yeah.
Oh, you.
What about you, Chelsea? Any last words?
I read a ton of books in quarantine, but I've been getting really into like sci-fi fantasy. So no self-help here, but a lot of like elves and orcs and fantasy worlds. because our world is a little crazy right now. But
Nice. That's a good little escape, right?
yeah, no self-help books here, but I think it is very helpful because it's kind of a, like you said, an escape. So lots of books, but not the same kind at the moment.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for jumping on. I know it's getting bedtime in your state,
Of course.
getting late
Thank
in
you
our
guys.
state. But well, yeah, we'll wrap it up, and we will definitely put you on the books because we have to connect again. We have to do something else, and we have to get on that boat
Oh
ride.
yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. I cannot wait to meet you in person.
Awesome. Thank you, Chelsea. Likewise.
All right. Well, good night,
Thank you,
and we will
guys.
see you next time.
Okay. Have a good one.